Hello, everyone, and welcome to another redk Live. My name's Tom Jeans. I'm the head of sales here at redk. And today I'm joined by George Cox. George, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself a second.
Absolutely, thank you. And thanks for joining, everybody. Thank you for having me, Tom. My name's George. I'm the lead Zendesk a customer experience consultant here at redk, supporting our customers through their journey, optimizing CX and all things support services, essentially. And here to hopefully showcase some really cool new features from Zendesk and the product suite they offer.
Lovely. Thank you, George. And the reason really that we've chosen George for today's call to present is really to give a better understanding about the customer experience AI trends that there are within the field, particularly for Zendesk customers. So hopefully you are now seeing my screen to share this. And that's the focus for today, how those CX trends are affecting Zendesk customers and also what you need to be aware of in terms of the product itself. So really, I'm going to give you an idea of what those trends are for 2025. And today, George is also going very kindly spun up a lovely demo instance of a couple of these features to give you just a flavor of what is available within Zendesk and hopefully tantalize a few of you into asking a few more questions. So we covered the introductions already. So really, I just want to give you a bit of an introduction into who redk are. If you don't already know, you may already be connected to us. So just at a high level, we're a customer experience and CRM consultancy. This is our 20th year of working within this field, which is a long time within this industry. We have around about 90 employees, but most importantly, 70 of those are CRM or customer experience specialists, having delivered those 400 or so customer experience implementations, successful ones, I should say. Particularly for this, it's worth me pointing out we've been a premier partner for Zendesk since 2017, which led to us becoming an implementation partner of the year in 2020. And in more detail, to go in a little bit more detail on that Zendesk practice. In terms of the product, if you are already a Zendesk customer, you may recognize a lot of these, but Zendesk has gone through a huge growth in terms of its product portfolio that all count within it. And we are now experts within that entire portfolio. So we have business analysts, developers, consultants, all able to help you get the most out of the entire Zendesk portfolio. And today we're just focusing in quite narrowly on the Copilot features and the advanced AI features within the Zendesk tool. So to be able to give you an idea of those trends, I want to use the Zendesk Customer Experience Trends Report. So why do they run this? Well, the use of AI in the customer service industry is revolutionizing how those businesses connect with customers. So it's driving that unprecedented efficiencies and personalization. And Zendesk 2025 CX Trends Report highlights that rapid transformation led by AI, with over 78% of CX leaders affirming its monumental impact over the past 5 decades or so. And what we want to highlight here are the key strategies of leading organizations that are adopting human-centric AI, and we'll focus on what human-centric means a bit later on, to reshape the customer interactions and set that new standard in service excellence. And it's worth me pointing out, just before we move on to the findings, that the annual report is across multiple sectors involving Zendesk surveying more than 5,000 consumers and 5,500 business respondents, not necessarily Zendesk customers, across 22 different countries, ideally to understand what's top of mind, what's keeping them up at night, and hopefully how Zendesk can also help that piece as well. So why are we still talking about AI? Hasn't that really been done to death by plenty of other people, maybe a little bit more experienced even than ourselves to talk to? Well, in truth, yes, it has, but it's also not going away. It's a fundamental part of how high-performing customer experience teams work now and will continue to lean into in the future. Well, why is it important? Well, 2 of these graphics convey it pretty clearly. The volume of work is increasing. The expectations of our consumers is increasing alongside that. So how do our customers meet this demand? Or how do Zendesk customers meet this demand? By utilizing the best-in-class AI solutions across that CX channel with speed and, most importantly, with quality. You want to be highly efficient, but more important, well, as importantly, actually, you want to be highly effective. So there were 5 key trends that came out of the CX Trends report, and we're going to focus on these to differing levels, and some of these will also be included as the demo itself. And these are what high or CX trendsetters, as Zendesk call it, are utilizing to stay ahead of their competition, remain efficient, and continue to delight their customers. And those that are doing so are seeing 128% ROI compared to what they're calling CX traditionalists, those that are slightly behind on this. And that includes some fantastic metrics you can see there on the screen of cross-sell revenue, customer acquisition, and customer retention as well. So let's go into the first one, which is centered around co-pilots, which a lot of you may have heard of, and it's more than just an industry buzzword now. It's very much part of everyone's everyday life. And a large amount of you watching today probably already use Copilot in your day-to-day business function. Microsoft Copilot is probably the best known, but there are plenty of other solutions that are being provided and even more to come as well. And those CX trendsetters are rapidly advancing towards autonomous service by integrating AI across the key customer interactions. And those companies leading this transformation aren't just using AI as a tool, they're redefining the entire customer experience based on what is available now. So it's worth saying that because these AI copilots provide instant access to information, it enables faster and more accurate responses. So while AI-driven workflows intelligently route and resolve customer requests, that reduces the workload and improves efficiency as well. And those AI agents now handle complex issues independently, engaging in natural conversation and delivering those personalized recommendations, which frees up your human agents, if we're going to call them that, those valuable personnel you already have in your organization, to focus on high value interactions or more complex interactions that will deliver better experience to your customers. And then generative AI search that enhances the self-service piece as well. So it's worth mentioning that that makes knowledge bases smarter and allows those customers to find answers quickly without support. So rather than replacing agents, AI is making them more effective, with companies investing in AI training to now ensure seamless collaboration. So it's becoming part of the workforce already. And this balance between AI-driven efficiency and human expertise is shaping the future of exceptional customer service. So this, even though it's the first trend, is probably one of the key fundamentals. Let's move on quickly then to trend two. It's quite possibly the most fast advanced aspect of AI within the last probably 12 months. And it's related to AI agents becoming human-like in their interactions. So it's very important we talk about this, because I think a lot of us know or feel like we know when we're talking to an AI agent and when we're speaking to a human. But you'd probably be surprised to hear how many of the interactions you have with your favorite brands now online or even over the phone, they're actually being handled by AI agents. That's because of the surge of the abilities of those AI tools to evolve more human-like traits, using tools such as tone detection, deeper interpretation of those subtle cues, and over time building up that bank of historic data on you as a consumer, and therefore the ability for your customers to create that more familiar feel. And the most important aspect of this really that was found from the report is that 68% of customers would engage more with AI if it felt more human. And it's clear that's the fast direction that AI and CX capabilities are heading. So it's important to get it right with the right tools around it. Now, thirdly, the third trend really is centered around how AI can make agents more efficient through that intelligent prompting. So how can we hand over routine, monotonous tasks to a more efficient and ultimately more willing tool for those tasks using AI? Well, you need to ensure that AI is within your technology suite from the start. But it can also help customers to speed up inquiries by learning about those user preferences and customer profiles, and writing or prompting them to write the right information in messaging or writing it for them. So it's best directed to the best team and individuals for that query for faster, more effective resolutions. And as we've mentioned previously with Copilot, it's not just limited to consumer efficiency, so end customer. It gives your agents the ability to know what next best actions, how to automate those mundane tasks and focus on the more complex issues, as we've mentioned before, ultimately leading to being more effective and a delighting service for consumers, if that is the phrase. And then the fourth trend, I'm not going to spend too long on, as it's actually not part of our practical demonstration today. However, it is a fast-growing aspect of CS interaction, so it's important that I do just focus on it briefly now, and I'd be more than happy to go into more detail at a later stage, because we could do an entirely separate presentation on this. So Voice AI is transforming customer interactions by providing more convenient support without the need for screens. And it enables natural, intuitive conversations, which make it easier for customers to express their needs and get those quick resolutions. So by replacing those outdated IVR menus, voice AI actually reduces friction, which is brilliant, and obviously streamlines those interactions as a result. Then its capabilities also extend into messaging, so it ensures that seamless cross-platform support. And really that leads to customers feeling heard and valued in their preferred language, because it can be multilingual as well, and that drives that better engagement and satisfaction. Now, I mentioned we're not going to go into too much detail on this one in terms of the demo, but we could and probably will do a whole presentation on this alone for 2025. So do watch this space, and please reach out to us via LinkedIn or via redk. To reach out to us for more information if you'd like to hear more about the voice AI capabilities for 2025. It's certainly a fast-moving subject. And then the final trend, you may be pleased to hear, is more focused on how those trendsetters are implementing it correctly to drive customer loyalty. So as we've heard, AI is revolutionizing personalization by adapting instantly to those customer interactions, creating those real-time tailored experiences. And those dynamic recommendations evolve with each engagement. So that ensures every touch point is going to feel relevant, it's going to feel meaningful. And then by analyzing those past behaviors, the AI can predict those customer needs, which ultimately drives deeper loyalty and satisfaction. And it also helps business identify those and prioritize as well those high value customers. And what's the result? You have a better prediction of your long-term customer value from the internal side, and outside you have a stronger connection, increased retention, and far more engaging customer journey. So finally, how does Zendesk actually help with this? Well, they are the leaders in this field. It's pure and simple, I suppose. So Zendesk customers are more likely to have the correct AI in place to be able to take advantage of significant advancements in those AI tools and therefore scale. And Zendesk customers are more likely to report a positive ROI from those tools built into their solution already, because it is a best-in-class tool. So if you're a Zendesk customer now, you might be thinking one of two things, quite possibly. How do I get these AI tools within my Zendesk instance? Or I have some of these tools already, but how can I make the most of what we have? Good news is that's where we'd like to take you next. So we as a Premier partner would help you come up with the best suggestions for how best to utilize it, how best to get it into it. And as I mentioned, George has spun up some examples of how to give you a flavor of the power of these tools and how they can help you become a CX trendsetter too. So with that, I'll pass over to you, George.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'm just going to begin sharing my screen. Excellent. So as Tom's very nicely articulated and explained for us, AI is, of course, a huge buzzword in today's world, particularly in CX and, of course, CRM as well. And really what I want to try and do is bring some of that to life, put a bit of reality into it, as opposed to just presenting lots of numbers, lots of data. Whilst that's really important, that really helps drive return on investment and understand the business case. We actually want to see it in action and understand how can we put this into our current Zendesk instance, or how can we evaluate it as well. So for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm just conscious of time as well. As Tom mentioned, we could sit here all afternoon talking about AI, which I'd love to do, but I really want to focus on three key areas. The agent experience, so really that co-pilot, suggesting recommendations, prediction model. Then we're going to have a look at how do we turn these things on, how do we make it active, how do we make it live, and then how do we look at the admin experience, so really behind the scenes, how can we improve what the agents are seeing? And then lastly, we'll have a look at the customer experience, really painting a picture of the art of possible of what it is that we can really bring to life to help the customer experience in their journey with our brands. Before I wrap it on, can everybody see my screen? It should be a Gmail account. Let me just start again. Apologies. So hopefully you can see a Gmail account with an email on the bottom right-hand side, which I believe you can see at the moment. Tom, if you can, yes, thank you very much. Excellent. So I'm not going to be explaining how emails work, because everybody has sent an email, I'm sure, in the past. But what I do want to illustrate is just the journey from the end user all the way through to the agent. So what we can see here is somebody sending an email. In this particular example, we're going to be using a financial services, and because of the demo, we will be using different sort of use cases. But this person or this end user has found themselves, they were traveling, they found a transaction that they're not quite sure about, and we're then just going to send that email to our support team. So what we'll then do is navigate across to our Zendesk environment. And again, I hope that's sharing my screen. It is. Excellent. So as we can see here, this is my very much a test Zendesk environment. Hopefully your Zendesk looks a lot prettier than this, is nicely organized. But what we're trying to articulate here is that an issue in the past has been when somebody sends in an email, it is very difficult, almost impossible for us to really understand what the customer's identifying, what they're talking about or raising as an issue, until somebody opens up that email and begins to identify, analyze, and then categorize it for us. Through the use of AI and through Zendesk's model and through thousands of data that they've collected over the years, they've been able to put together certain models based on intents within different industries. And as I say, we're focusing on this particular example in the financial services. And so therefore, what we can identify is that when an email is sent in, and of course there are very similar ones within here related to transaction issues, as opposed to somebody having to manually go into that ticket and then categorize it, we can do that automatically, and we can actually put prioritizations on this, service level agreements and escalation processes should we need to. So what we'll see in this particular view here is that we can see it, the ticket that was raised just a moment ago. We can see the intent that we can add within the particular views as unauthorized use. We can see that a priority has already been set as urgent, and we can also see that we've got a service level agreement that's ticking down for 60 minutes. So if I just open up that particular case, what we'll see in this particular ticket, and again, hopefully lots of you are more than familiar with Zendesk, is there are a couple of different features that are now available. And what I will say is this view is actually ever evolving with Zendesk as they grow within the product and the product begins to become more powerful. Is that there's the intelligent wand or the intelligent panel that allows the agent to essentially see what is happening on that ticket before they even need to have a look at it. So of course we can see the description, but if we turn our attention to the top right-hand side here, what you'll notice is there's the intelligent and the prediction model. And essentially what it's doing is it's identifying the intent of what that end user is identifying or sort of raising as a concern, that transaction has not been recognized. We'll also see the language that's been used automatically. So again, talking to Tom's point, we can actually have multilingual. We can use that to also assign the cases to those native speakers should we have that global setup. And then lastly, what we'll see is the sentiment of how that person is maybe talking to us, the dialect they're using to identify, are they happy, are they neutral, or in fact, are they quite negative? And that will really help us as an agent really understand how we want to talk to this individual, how we want to respond essentially. Now, if we just imagine that the conversation has then continued, maybe there's been conversations between a manager, a team leader, or quite frankly, there's just been a conversation between the end user and the agent. Of course, that conversation block can then begin quite packed and quite full up. Instead of having to read all of the conversations, what Zendesk offers here is a summarization of the conversation that has happened and essentially allows us to take out the key points, and it will then tell us exactly what's been happening within here. So a really cool feature, particularly for team leaders or admins, or even if somebody's picking up a case, if an individual has taken leave, they've been sick, somebody that picks this ticket up, they can have a nice summarization of what's been happening within here, and it keeps things nice and consistent. Now, what will also happen is the more that you begin to use the AI within your particular instance, the model and the data will always be learning. So the intent will always be learning. And what will then happen is that it will then suggest potential macros or potential ticket merges that could happen as a result of this ticket being raised. Unfortunately, because my instance is a little bit vanilla of data, the macro suggestions isn't quite there, but this is something that we can enable on your account, which will allow us to really see the macro suggestions and see that in action as part of a trial period, which I'll elaborate on in a moment. But what we'll also see here is the merging suggestions. And what it will essentially do is based on the type of request, so what's been written in the email or the chat, the conversation, WhatsApp, whichever it might be, but also the end user, it will identify and say, actually, this person has already raised an issue just like this. We suggest that you merge this ticket with another ticket. So it really takes out that duplication of tickets, which helps with reporting, root cause analysis, and just hopefully helps keep things a little bit concise and a little bit more streamlined and hopefully efficient as we can. Now, next, what will also happen is when this ticket is created, you'll notice on the left-hand side here, and this is optional that you can include this, is a series of fields will be populated, very similar to what you can see on the top right-hand side. But we can see, based on the intent, we have given this an urgent priority. The intent is being given, as I already mentioned, transaction not recognized, and it will also be given a confidence level. So Zendesk AI model will essentially say, we recognize what's been written here, and based on the data that's been learning throughout the interactions of AI being included in your instance, that we think the intent is transaction not recognized, and therefore it's a high confidence level. Now, again, the reason why this can become really powerful, and this is what we've implemented for many customers, is that if the intent has been recognized, which is excellent, but maybe the intent confidence is low, maybe we don't want to do any automation. Maybe we're just quite happy for it identifying the intent. But what we can then do as a sort of a next step is that if the intent's been recognized and the confidence level is a high or maybe even a medium, we can actually set a series of automations. So in this example, we can say intent is transaction not recognized. The confidence level is high, therefore set the priority as urgent. So we know that we can be pretty confident this is going to have a certain priority, certain SLA, and therefore it's going to kick into a particular process. Again, if it meets a low, maybe we actually want to hand this over to an agent or a human so they can actually then take a look and investigate this case as it's rightly meant to be handled. The same can then be said for the sentiment. So again, based on what's happening, we've got very positive all the way through to very negative, as you can see on the left-hand side. So if it's negative or very negative, we might want to assign it to team managers, escalate it. And obviously if it's very positive, then we may want to send an automatic acknowledgement to say, hey, thank you for your experience, or thank you for raising a request. We'll jump on this as quickly as we can. And again, the language, I think, speaks for itself, depending on what's been said. Obviously, the language will be identified there. So that's really to an agent co-pilot in understanding what's been happening on that particular case. But what about when we need to respond as an agent? Of course, everybody's more than familiar with macros, I'm sure. And of course, we can add a macro, or we can simply type out a message, say, hey, Ray, we will look into this. Now, of course, in this particular example, hopefully you'll be writing a lot more in there, or there's some really good macros that you've got created to handle these types of responses. But imagine there's a case where we're not quite sure what it is we need to be writing, or we're new to Zendesk, we're new to the organization. What will happen here is there's a magic wand called enhanced writing. And essentially what it will allow us to do is three things: expand, make it more friendly, or make it more formal. So again, if we want to expand on what's been written, what it will take is essentially, hello, Ray, we will investigate this matter. So again, just maybe making it a little bit longer. If we want to make it more friendly, again, what it'll do is take that text and it'll say, hey, Ray, add an emoji. We're excited to look into this matter for you. Given that this issue is related to a transaction issue, you're most likely not going to use this particular tone. And then lastly, you also have the ability to make this more formal. Dear Ray, I hope this finds you well. We're eager to investigate on your behalf. So really it just allows the agent a bit more tools. And again, this is based off ChatGPT, whereas the intent and the prediction models is all based off Zendesk data. So really acting as a co-pilot to allow to the agent to give them more tools and allow them to respond with tone of voice, keeping things more consistent. And of course, this comes really well hand in hand with the Zendesk macros functionality as well. So hopefully what we're seeing there at a very high level. Sorry,
George. Just before you move on, apologies. I know you're in flow. For those that are watching this live, when George is clicking that one button, the list of the options doesn't actually show, but there is a list of choices that George was making there that can give you outlines for how you can change the enhancement there. So that's where he was choosing it from. It wasn't just randomly changing it. There were lists of things on there, but it doesn't show on the recording.
Apologies. Thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, absolutely. So there are three options in a block. As Tom quite rightly says. Thank you. Excellent. So as I say, hopefully from an agent perspective, a very high level, and there's a lot more we can, of course, expand on. There's a lot more cool functionalities that we can do for some of our customers. I say when they're beginning of their journey, there's a bit more of a hesitancy to send anything external. And so therefore, this is where this become really powerful. We can add priorities, add SLAs, we can add certain escalation workflows. But the more that we believe in the tool, we can see the return on investment, the power that it has and that it achieves. We can actually say, if intent or certain criteria has been met, why not send an automatic response to a customer, or why not actually trigger a certain flow that allows us to then continue and be more efficient in our responses. So that's very much from an agent experience. So what I want to do is actually turn on our attention to maybe the admin side of things. So what is the case if actually we were interested and want to get this started from a trial perspective, all the way through to we've committed to Zendesk AI, what it is that we need to do. And it's very simple. So in this particular tab at the top, I'm just going to change to a different Zendesk environment. And essentially this is going to walk us through how it is that we're going to turn it on and how we're going to support the admins once Zendesk AI has been enabled. So we're going to go to the admin center. For those admins, you'll be more than familiar with this. Objects and rules. What will then appear is something called intelligent triaging. Allow us to turn this on. And what will then happen is we have three then models, as I've said, in terms of intelligent triage. We have the intent, we have the language, and we have the sentiment. If we just focus on intent for now, what we'll then be able to do is we'll be able to see what channels do we want the intelligent triage to be working for. Again, if we're new to this journey, we're not quite sure where to start, we could actually just start with a handful of channels. So maybe we can have web form, email, API, web widget, so on and so forth. If not, we could also select maybe text messaging if that's a key area that we want to focus on. Now, again, if we're interested to see exactly what type of intent models will be enabled onto our account, and again, each industry will have their own specific one, we can actually see the taxonomies or the types of predictions or the intents are broken down into categories. And again, this is really influential in terms of reporting, which we can spend the entire session on, of course, as well. Within the order section, these categories are then broken down into further subcategories to really dive into the nitty-gritty and the details to say, actually, we've got order, delivery info, and these are the types of options we have. So a lot more relevant for a retail use case, for example, as well. So this just gives you a bit of an idea as an admin if you're interested to see how Zendesk has set their criteria, their categories for the different types of intents. They can be presented within here as well. Now, that's just turning this on, and that's really as simple as it gets. Of course, there's the next steps we can take in terms of setting up reports, agent training, because we want to make sure they're using the tool effectively. But really, that's where we're enabling the intent model to be set up from a channel perspective. But now we're interested in seeing actually how can this help admins in a day-to-day role and actually enabling them to support agents a bit more efficiently. So what will then happen is the more that the AI model is being used and the more data that's being collected, and typically it takes around about 2 weeks for these sort of suggestions to really start appearing, is that we will have something called a macro suggestion. So within here, as I say, what will then happen in macro suggestions is it will then scan all of the tickets that are being worked on, either open, pending, solved, or closed, and essentially recognize the types of responses that our support staff are then sending and the repetitions of that. So we can see a suggestion for request a refund, gift wrapping, where's my package, so on and so forth. And what it will tell us is actually for this suggestion, this is actually being repeated 78 times by 12 different agents. And actually there's not a macro out there that's going to help them to respond to this. And the whole point of the purpose of macros is to make the agents or humans' life more efficient, easier to respond to cases, and essentially impact the customer experience because they're getting a quicker resolution and the tone of voice is being consistent as well. So within this suggestion here, what will then happen when we select on the suggestion on the right-hand side, it will tell us a bit of an insight as to where this recommendation has come from. So as I say, 78 agent replies have been added over the last 3 months. It's suggesting that we create a macro for all agents. And again, this is where it can become quite clever. Maybe only certain groups need to have certain macros because it's only relevant for their teams. And it's then going to tell us the suggested content. So it's basically saying, creating a bit of a collection of the types of responses that are being written by AI, by the agents. And then using AI, it's then going to tell us the type of message that we think or that the AI model thinks that we should be creating. Furthermore, what it's then going to do is actually tell us a bit of insight, further insight, should I say, where this suggestion has come from in terms of the tickets themselves. So as an admin, I can be really sure that exactly what it is that we're going to create is that I can actually see, there's real consistencies in what agents are writing or typing out manually, or maybe even copying and pasting for a Word document. And why not therefore create that as a macro to make our agents' life that little bit easier? So again, what we can do is see all of the tickets that is basing their recommendation off. We can then review the suggestion, and this will then take us to the macro creation page, which again, I'm sure lots of us are familiar with. It will give us automatically a macro name, which we can of course update. We can select who the macro is going to be for in terms of all agents or particular groups. And it's then going to give us the option to then update the comment description. And of course we can add actions, we can take it a step further, but it's really giving the admin the power and the foresight to be able to then create that macro automatically. And we can then simply select create. So again, hopefully what we're seeing there is the power for administrators to be able to not only turn it on really quickly and really easily, but then being able to give them the tools available to suggest macros that can be created. It avoids that, first of all, agents having to manually copy and paste things, having Word documents, having spreadsheets of certain responses. But it also means that there's not one person responsible for always identifying what macros should be created. So lastly, what I then want to turn our attention to is the end user experience, which is really where we can get quite powerful and quite creative with the use of the Zendesk AI and the chatbot space. So what we're quite familiar with, and I think is really important, as Tom mentioned at the very beginning, is we want these conversations to be more of a human interaction versus a chatbot automation. I'm sure we've all been caught in loops where we're having conversations with the chatbot and actually we get left more frustrated than we do actually feel that we've been helped. But what Zendesk can do, Zendesk AI, is actually we can connect to back office systems. In this particular example, we're going to pretend that maybe we're focused on a HR use case or an employee use case. The same could be replicated for customer experience and IT as well. But actually, we can see this person's logged in as somebody called Ray at the top. And actually, I'm going to therefore engage with the chatbot. And of course, I could ask him for a reset of a password. I could have forgotten my ID or email address, or I could be locked out of an account. Now, in this particular example, as an end user, I might be interested to know if something could be added to an insurance policy that I have. I can see my paycheck, whatever it might be. And actually, because I'm logged in, I'm therefore expecting the Zendesk to know who it is that I am, and therefore we hopefully want to have a one-touch resolution where possible. So what it is I'm going to ask is going to say, can I add dental insurance to my fucking spell? That would be okay. Simple question here. Now, historically, what this might do is actually take us to a help center article. It might even assign this ticket to a particular human who can actually have a look at my information in the backend system, in a CRM, in an ERP, in a database, and actually identify this person is logged in as Ray, and they're asking for something to be added to their policy. Do they meet the criteria? Yes or no? And we can give them a response. Utilizing Zendesk AI and connecting to our backend systems, what the Zendesk AI will do is it will automatically read who the person is that sent the case, the type of question it is that they're asking, and scan their profile, not just in Zendesk, but the back office system, and identify that they've been looked into this, and therefore that they have raised a request outside of the window that they have available, and therefore they're unable to enroll into a dental plan. As a result, they've checked into their annual enrollment, that they missed their period, which was in March in this scenario, and therefore they'd be able to select, in March, to select the dental plan. If they're not happy with this, they can then contact their HR team directly, or we can assign this ticket to a particular individual. So this is really powerful. This is taking AI completely to the next step, where we're connecting Zendesk to a backend system. We're allowing the end user to have a conversation or ask a simple question within the messaging bot. The bot has then obviously scanned the profile, connected to a backend system, and then provided an answer based on that as well. Now, I appreciate that's a very simplistic use case, connecting to a backend system, and we can really get quite complicated or complex use cases, which is brilliant because that's what we're here to support. But I really wanted to just give you a bit of an insight as to the art of possible when connecting Zendesk AI and also the backend system. And I think lastly, we would love to be able to showcase some of these features in a little bit more detail. I appreciate because of time, we've had to keep this fairly high level for the purpose of this demonstration. But as Tom mentioned as well, we'll be more than happy to have conversations with you guys and hopefully enable a Zendesk trial on your account and hopefully help you take the AI to the next step.
Thank you, George. I've seen a couple of questions come through while you were showing that, and as you are a resident Zendesk expert, I'm going to give you a little bit of a grilling for some of these questions. And the one that seems most popular is and actually probably to give you a bit of a context, actually I was thinking of it from my perspective. We get told about how to add AI into tools all the time, particularly when we work in the SaaS industry. You get told it's very easy to add in. And then when it actually comes to it, it's either not quite what it was advertised as, and therefore doesn't deliver the value, or there are a whole raft of prerequisites you need to have in your account to be able to then eventually unlock what you want to do. So how does that work in the Zendesk world in terms of how to get yourself ready for the AI piece?
Absolutely, and you're quite right. I think there's lots of noise about turning on AI, and this is going to solve every single problem that we have. I think one of the key requirements in Zendesk is to have messaging enabled. I think that's becoming more prominent now, and I think almost 99% of customers would have that enabled. So I think that's, from a technical perspective, that needs to be enabled for Zendesk AI to essentially work as powerful as it can. The second is I think there needs to be a conversation about what it is that we're trying to achieve, and I think understanding what are the pain points, short, medium, and long term, and understanding that actually we want AI to support us, and that could be through a series of stages. As I said before, maybe the first stage, we only want AI to support internally, so therefore we're not sending anything externally because we want to validate, we want to have confidence in this model. And then the second and third stages can really turning into these chatbots, as I've just shown or articulated here. And then thirdly, AI is an evolving tool. Just because we implement it doesn't mean to say that's it and that's sorted forever. Somebody or a team, I would always say, wants to be dedicated to this, to be able to review the data, enhance it. It's an ever-evolving project. Doesn't mean to say that we need to invest hours and hours and hours into this particular product or tool, but it is important that we do have a team that are supporting it and recognizing the areas that it can be amended, adjusted, and elaborated on. So hopefully that helps bring that question a bit to light.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And sort of related to that, but from a more procurement basis, I suppose, is the best way to phrase it. It's very easy to show value when you're showing in a demo like this, but ultimately it comes down to a business decision, which can lead to a financial decision as part of that. How easy is it to show the return on investment? I've shared some details in the CX Trends report, but that is extremely high level based on a lot of other experience. For the individual businesses, how easy is it for us to show that return on investment?
Yeah, and I think as part of the setup and the trial period, what we'd want to be doing to understand where we're starting from is maybe take a collection of KPI reporting metrics that we're where we are today, and that could be customer satisfaction, it could be first response times, could be service level agreements met, whatever metrics is that we have. And again, that will really help identify the pain points for certain areas that we're looking to improve. And that could be set from a benchmark either within the industry that we're in, certainly within retail, or it could be a governance level. Maybe we need to be a bit tighter, improve on certain metrics, or it could just be senior team telling us that we need to improve certain things. So the first point is understanding where we are today and what's the benchmark. Implementing AI, and we haven't touched on it in any great detail today, is then setting up the reporting. And actually then having a bit of a cross-reference or understanding we're coming from here, this is where we are today. And actually by implementing AI, these are the results that we're seeing as a result, I suppose. The reporting is always going to be live in Zendesk, depending on the plan that you have, but it really allows us to sort of dissect and understand not only just the time to resolution on the customer service satisfaction, which obviously are key metrics that we can actually see improvement on, but actually the AI model will allow us to actually understand the root cause analysis a lot more, as opposed to maybe putting paper over the cracks and putting more bums on seats or having more automation. Whilst on the face of it, that's great. But actually, if we're not addressing the root cause of the problem via the intent model, then actually we're not really going to be setting ourselves up for success in the future. So that's a really, we can actually dive into the detail. And I appreciate that's not always the most glamorous of roles to really dive into the data and get to the root cause. But in the long run, that's really going to set us up for success because we're going to understand more about our customers, types of questions they have, and it allows us to make better business decisions.
Thank you. And last question, I promise, although I do see there's other questions that have come through, so please do keep them coming. We're more than happy to answer them after the session or share them with us on LinkedIn. Last question is more just around, at a high level, I suppose, the sector that the AI best supports. It seems easier to see the use case for B2C. A lot of what we've shown on the demonstration there was B2C, but B2B organizations, particularly within financial services, have a higher value on the human-to-human interaction. So how does something like what we've shown today actually help support that process? Because there can certainly be a lot of scaredness within the industry, I suppose, about opening themselves up to this.
Completely. And I think that's absolutely valid at this time. Like I said, there's lots of noise and there's lots of things that people promise, or as you say, people promise that what AI can do, essentially. You're quite right. Maybe just to begin, my point to begin with is that AI, what we've seen so far, is very much B2C driven, and that it can be quite transactional, especially connecting it to a backend system. But as I say, there's real value in actually understanding who our customers are and behind the scenes really putting processes into place. Understanding if we need to escalate things such as a transaction has not been recognized, or maybe even an account, particularly within the fintech or corporate services, actually making sure that their issue is being handled effectively and their customers are having their cases prioritized, their service level agreements are being set. And these things could be set at a contract level. So as soon as a customer, in terms of an account, has been onboarded with us, maybe they contractually set up that their tickets or their cases should be handled in a particular timely manner. And so therefore the intent model or the actual AI data will allow us to work towards that, as opposed to integrating data from back office systems, creating convoluted integrations which don't necessarily need to be there. We're actually leveraging Zendesk data, customer data, and actually then having an impact behind the scenes, which as a result, of course, is going to drive either new customers or customer retention as well from an account perspective. So hopefully that helps.
Absolutely, thank you. And there's certainly more we can go into on that one. And I did promise that was the last question, so please do keep the questions coming in. There is a huge amount we could talk about on this one, but I'm conscious of everyone's time. We want to make sure we keep it as succinct as possible. So please do follow up afterwards. As George also said, we're more than happy to go into more detail, more specific detail to your individual use cases as well. And it is very simple for us to do so. So please do reach out to either me or George on LinkedIn or via the website, the redk website. And also, if you'd like access to that CX Trends report for 2025, please also reach out to us. We're more than happy to share that with you afterwards. I'm fairly sure we'll follow up with that detail as well for you all to download. There's some even more detailed stuff than even I went into earlier on. It's really interesting to see for this year. Thank you for your time, George. That was really helpful to see it in action and bring the data to life, really, that I showed at the start of it. We'll probably do a lot more on this throughout the year, no doubt. It's an ever-evolving piece, and what we've said now in 6 months' time is definitely going to need an update as well. So thank you very much for your time on this. It's been really helpful, and look forward to seeing you soon.